Welcome back! I'm Tyler, you're watching I'm Telling Tyler, our write-in series where you can ask me questions, tell me the latest tea, and so long as it's at least Lolita adjacent, you can send your tea and or queries to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. So let's get right to our first submission from Maple. And Maple says, "Dear Tyler, I'm writing to you to speak of a minor tragedy. My dress has been injured. She has permanent scars now, and I don't know how to hide them. The unfortunate story begins with me tending a tiny campfire while wearing my beautiful Taobao dress that I got off of Devil Inspired. Yes, I know it's stupid, but hear me out. Some sparks and burning charcoal crumbs escaped and landed on the front of my dress. Luckily, it's polyester, so the whole thing didn't catch fire, but I now have several small yet rather obvious holes melted into my dress. I was fine, but I'm worried. My parents don't know this happened. This is the second time I've worn it because of quarantine, and they bought it for me. Once my brain registered what was happening, I threw water on my skirts to stop it getting worse, but the damage had been done. I'm so ashamed of this dumb mistake, and I'm determined to keep wearing this dress. It came with an apron, but the apron is extremely sheer and may not hide much. The color is hard to find a match to in order to patch it up. Please give me some kind of advice on how to deal with this so no one notices. What do I do? I hope you were able to help and that you speak about this in an I'm Telling Tyler video so that I can get a response and so maybe other Lolitas can help me as well. I'm unable to log into Facebook at the moment, so you're all I've got. Thank you, and I love all your videos. Sincerely, Maple." Well, Maple, the first thing I thought of upon hearing your question, and this took me 10 years into the past pretty much immediately, was you could embroider over the holes. And the reason I say this took me into the past is because it immediately made me think of the BTSSB dress that got embroidered in Kamikaze Girls. I don't know if you've seen the movie. I feel like most Lolitas have. It's practically the Bible of Lolita. And I say this specifically because you're saying that the color is hard to match. If you go with embroidery, i.e. embroidering a little heart or a flower or some kind of pretty shape or whatever, if you go with embroidery, you don't necessarily have to match the color of your dress. You could contrast the color. Let's say your dress is like, I don't know, green. You would go with like ivory or something like that. If it's some weird mauve, you could go with white. You know, you can contrast the color of your embroidery, white being the safest color, with the color of your dress, and it would look like it was on purpose. Like if I were to get a couple of burn holes in this dress, I would probably embroider little chocolate brown hearts or something on it, like little bonbons or something. Or you could stitch a ribbon over the holes. Have you considered stitching a bow or something like that over the holes to like add a little bit of cuteness that no one would ever know was covering the carnage? So all I'm saying is that you have options, and this really made me think of Kamikaze Girls immediately, which gave me all the nostalgic feels, and I'm so sorry that that happened to your dress, but I do really think you have an opportunity here to make your dress all the more unique and special to you. I am also interested to hear what other people have to say in the comments as to how they would fix your dress, and in the future, maybe don't go camping in Lolita. That's all I've got to say for you, Maple. I really hope that you find a solution that really works for you, and I really hope your dress looks all the better for it afterwards. Thank you again, Maple, for writing in, and quickly moving on to our next submission, in keeping with the theme of maple syrup, is from someone we're going to call Pancake. And I just want you to know that I'm cropping out certain parts of their message because some of this drama is with a Lolita who will not be named due to the ice-cold nature of the tea involved. And to summarize the first part of the message that I'm cropping out, the submitter is essentially struggling with discomfort and annoyance at seeing this certain Lolita return to the community without any kind of acknowledgement or consequences. So now that you know the context that we're addressing some drama with a Lolita that shall not be named from ages ago, Pancake says, "It rubs me the wrong way how they just came back into the community without any apology or any sort of statement. I try my best to reduce my salt levels, but nothing works. Do you have any advice for getting over this petty hatred towards someone? I really want to support these brands, but why does my salt have to be so high? Sorry for ranting to you. No one around me seems to remember the drama or is into J-fashion. Signed, Pancake." Now, the very niche and ice-cold tea that is causing you so much annoyance aside, I feel like the best way to deal with this is to consider the differences between productive anger and unproductive anger. Productive anger usually converts into determination. Like, you can use this in support of a cause or an artistic endeavor or a positive change in your life. Meanwhile, unproductive anger is a stagnant force. It eats away at the person feeling the emotion and, in short, provides zero benefit whatsoever. And while both types of anger are incredibly common and natural and normal to feel, one will help you while the other will inevitably hurt you. And going back to the fact that we are essentially dealing with frigid tea, forget ice cold, this shit is frozen solid. The best way to deal with a negative emotion that is not going to become productive in any way, i.e. you are not going to make art with it, you're not going to use it as determination for a cause, is to reroute your anger into empathy. I know that's rich coming from me, but hear me out for just a moment. What I mean when I'm telling you to reroute your anger through empathy is not some kumbaya bullshit. I'm not expecting you to become the bigger person. I'm not expecting you to go full Mother Teresa and suddenly become a saint, although she was a questionable individual, so probably a bad example. What I am saying is that instead of hanging on to this negative emotion that is not serving you in any way, your energy would be better used to excise it. And the way to go about this is honestly pretty simple. You may initially meet with some internal resistance, as it can be hard to get over our petty grudges. They are usually there for a reason. But to get back to the point at hand, what I mean when I say you should empathize with this target of your irritation is that you need to consider the circumstances that led them to act that way. The reason I'm telling you to do that is not to excuse their actions, but to give you a kind of understanding of what might have led them to be the way they are, which generally, by the time you're done, will lead to a certain amount of gratitude that you are not that way. That the further you come to understand the circumstances that led them to be where they are today, the more grateful you are that you were not subjected to the same circumstances. Because while it's not always true that people who do shitty things have horrible, sad backstories, oftentimes it kinda is. And again, I'm not saying this so you'll sympathize with them in any way. I'm saying this because usually our anger and our frustration with other people is also deeply rooted in a misunderstanding of our subject. Our anger is often fed by our complete disbelief that this person would have the audacity to do the thing that has annoyed us, and coming to understand the circumstances that led them to that action can often bring down the heat of our anger. As a mental exercise, it also gives that anger, that like pent up energy and emotion, somewhere to go, something productive to do. You can funnel that energy into a task that will actually help you in the long run, or at the very least is a better use of your time than sitting there fuming impotently at your subject who will never even know that you're angry to begin with. And in short, instead of like clutching these hot burning coals to no effect, you actually have an opportunity for a moment of personal growth, where you can come to understand someone who has offended or irritated you and come to the conclusion that you should be grateful that you weren't raised or surrounded by the circumstances that led them to where they are today. And again, while that might sound a little kumbaya, it is effective if used correctly. It doesn't mean that you have to forgive them, but I do think that if you give yourself the space to consider what led them down that path, the gratitude that you will gain from having not stumbled down it yourself should offset the unproductive anger that you're still harboring. And hopefully, it will turn it into something a little more productive, like introspection and gratitude. With that said, let's move on to one more submission. A special submission considering it is June, and that is the month of the Alphabet Mafia. And this submission is from Fun Lesbian. And Fun Lesbian says, "Hi Tyler, I've been thinking about getting into the Lolita community, but I'm a lesbian and I'm worried that I won't be accepted by the community. I'm not sure what to do. Any advice would be much appreciated. Thanks. Sincerely, Fun Lesbian." The reason I read this with a smile is because you can't throw a petticoat in this fashion without hitting 50 bi girls and 70 more lesbians who are now thoroughly irritated. I don't think it's possible to wear Lolita without running into a lesbian, is what I'm trying to say. First off, I'm bi myself, and second, I don't think you can wear this fashion without running into at least 5 lesbians within 10 seconds. Hyper-feminine spaces are sapphic as fuck, and Lolita is certainly no exception. So what I'm trying to say here, Fun Lesbian, is that you are in profoundly good company. Not only is Lolita fashion, like, lesbian friendly, if Lolita were a manga, there would be hand-holding on every single page. Scandalous. I don't think I've ever had a submission from someone who's going like, is Lolita friendly to lesbians? Because on the face, it's so hyper femme. Of course it's friendly to lesbians. Maybe I'm just floored because I'm so comfortable with Lolita as this also hyper feminist space, so of course we support women who love women, and maybe it's also because I love women too, and I just presume that people knew that, but I guess I'm a little more low-key about this than I thought I was. I thought the LWLN set already had enough pink, purple, and blue hues to give you a hint, but I guess it was a little too subtle. What I'm trying to say is there is no need to worry about being accepted as a lesbian in the Lolita community. You're in good company, and I hope you start the fashion now feeling super confident and excited, because honestly, outside of how accepting the Lolita community is for anyone in the Alphabet Mafia, it's also an incredibly fun and diverse and just amazing space to slowly grow in a hobby that many people are really passionate about, and I just think that's a really fun space to be in. The Lolita community is so fracking industrious and hyper supportive of each other, and I just love being in a community where everyone is so excited and invested in the new releases and the new trends and what we're gonna look like next. There's just a lot going on. It's never a dull moment in the Lolita community, and I hope you have so much fracking fun when and if you join. I hope you join! You're certainly not gonna stick out as a lesbian. So anyway, thank you for your submission, Fun Lesbian. Again, I hope you join. And happy Pride Month to all of you out there. Apparently I've been a little too low-key about the fact that I'm bi. I've said it before, but apparently I need to put a fucking sticker on my forehead or people will forget. And as that was our third and final submission, I'd like to thank you for attending whatever it was that just happened before your very eyes. One more time, if you would like to submit to I'm Telling Tyler, you can send your tea and or queries to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. I'd like to thank my patrons for making whatever that was possible. And should you like to join their number, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews for more content that I don't recommend you watch ever for any reason.